Captain Taesung stood in the observation deck of the UHNS Indomitable and watched Earth shrink behind them. His ship was leaving home, heading toward a war that had been raging for 300 years before humans even knew aliens existed. The blue planet grew smaller with each passing minute, and he wondered if he would see it again. The Indomitable was not a beautiful ship. She was blocky and industrial. Built in the orbital shipyards above Earth in just 18 months. Every nation on the planet had contributed something to her construction. Her hull was covered in mismatched armor panels. Her weapons were experimental and untested in real combat. She was the only military starship humanity had ever built, and now she was flying toward a battlefield where thousands of alien warships clashed. Behind Taesung, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. Lieutenant Unji checked the weapon systems for the 100th time. Dr. Hyun-woo reviewed star charts and intelligence reports about their destination. Communications, Officer Bo-ra, monitored dozens of alien frequencies, trying to learn more about the war they were joining. Commander Jae-hoon sat in the second chair, his face calm but his eyes sharp. 3 weeks ago, representatives from the Galactic Council had arrived at Earth. They came in ships that made human technology look like children's toys. Their vessels were elegant and powerful, built by civilizations that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. The aliens had delivered a message to the governments of Earth. The Vorath Empire was expanding. Worlds were burning. The coalition needed every ship they could get. Admiral Ji-won had attended that meeting in Geneva. She told Taesung about it later, her voice tight with controlled anger. The alien representatives had been polite on the surface, but their contempt was obvious. They looked at human technology the way someone might look at stone tools in a museum. When they learned Earth had only one military starship, several of them had laughed. Not cruel laughter, but the kind of laughter that comes from genuine surprise. One ship. How quaint. Ambassador Sung Min had argued that humanity should participate anyway. Earth needed to establish itself in galactic politics. They needed to prove they belonged in this new universe they had discovered. The council had agreed, though Taesung suspected it was more about politics than military need. They assigned the Indomitable to the Belthara system, a minor front where skirmishes happened, but nothing decisive. Support duties, they called it. Stay out of the way and protect supply lines. Taesung had received his orders from Admiral Ji-won personally. She looked tired during that video call. Older than her years. They think we are a joke, she said. They are giving us the least important assignment they can imagine. But you will go anyway. You will follow orders, and you will show them what humans can do. Now, the Indomitable was 3 days into her journey. The crew of 200 worked in shifts, keeping the ship running smoothly. Most of them were young, in their 20s or early 30s. They had trained for this moment their entire adult lives. But training in simulation was different from facing real combat. Taesung could see the tension in their faces, the way their hands moved a little too quickly at their consoles. Lieutenant Yoonji approached him at the observation window. She was 26, brilliant with weapons systems, and believed deeply that human innovation could match anything the galaxy threw at them. "Captain," she said, "I have been running simulations with our railguns. The aliens stopped using kinetic weapons 3,000 years ago. Their shields are optimized for energy weapons." Taesung nodded. He had read the same reports. "And I think we have an advantage they do not expect. Our weapons are primitive by their standards. But primitive might work when they are not prepared for it." He appreciated her optimism. "Run more simulations. Work with Engineer Da-eun. If we can surprise them, we will." Dr. Hyun-woo joined them, carrying a data tablet. The science officer looked worried. But then Hyun-woo always looked worried. It was his natural state. "Captain, I have been analyzing the technical data the Council provided about Vorath ships. Their technology is impressive. Their weapons have longer range than ours. Their shields are stronger. Their ships are faster." "I know," Taesung said. "We are outmatched in every category." "I know that too." Hyun-woo hesitated. Then why are we doing this? It was a fair question. Tae Sung looked out at the stars streaming past as the Indomitable traveled faster than light. Because we were asked. Because Earth needs allies. Because someone has to be first. He turned to face the science officer. And because every species in that council was once where we are now. They all had a first ship. They all faced impossible odds. They survived. So will we. The days passed slowly. The crew settled into routines. Meals in the cafeteria. Exercise in the small gym. Study sessions where officers reviewed everything they knew about Vorath tactics. The Indomitable was a small ship by galactic standards, but she felt even smaller when Taesung thought about what waited for them at Belthara. On the 10th day, Bo-Ra brought him something interesting. Captain, I have been monitoring alien military communications. The encryption is complex, but I managed to break some of it. She looked uncomfortable. They are talking about us. What are they saying? They call us the Curiosity. The Primitive's toy, one commander said. Sending us to Belthara was like bringing a knife to a plasma fight. She paused. They are laughing at us, sir. The bridge went quiet. Everyone had stopped working to listen. Taesung could feel the anger and shame radiating from his crew. These young men and women had trained so hard. They had left Earth willing to die for their planet's future. And the aliens thought they were a joke. Commander Jae-hoon stood up. Captain, permission to speak freely? Granted. Let them laugh. My father worked in a factory. My grandfather was a fisherman. No one ever expected anything from my family. But I became a tactical officer on humanity's first starship. I learned a long time ago that being underestimated is an advantage. He looked around at the crew. They think we are weak. They think our ship is primitive. Good. Let them think that. We will show them the truth when it matters. Taesung felt pride warm his chest. This was why he trusted Jae-hoon. The man understood that respect had to be earned, and that the path to respect was through action, not words. That evening, Taesung called the entire crew together in the main assembly hall. You have heard the transmissions, he said. You know what the aliens think of us. They believe we are insignificant. They believe our ship is a museum piece. They are wrong. But we will not convince them with arguments. We will convince them by doing our job better than they think possible. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. We are not going to Belthara to match their strength. We cannot. We do not have their numbers or their technology. But we have something they have forgotten in their thousands of years of warfare. We have fresh eyes. We have new ideas. We have the willingness to try things they abandoned long ago. That is our weapon. The crew was silent, listening. When we arrive at Belthara, follow your training. Trust your instincts. Remember that every innovation in this ship came from human minds working on human problems. We built the Indomitable in 18 months. Some of their ships took 50 years to construct. We are fast. We are adaptable. We are creative. These things matter more than age or firepower. Lieutenant Yoonji started clapping. Then Engineer Da-eun joined her. Within seconds, the entire crew was applauding. It was not a roar of confidence. It was something quieter and more real. It was determination. 3 days later, the Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Belthara system. The sensors immediately lit up with contacts. Hundreds of ships. Thousands. The coalition fleet spread across space like a city of metal and light. Each vessel dwarfed the Indomitable. They were sleek and ancient and powerful. Bo-Ra received the incoming transmission. Captain, Coalition Command is hailing us. Put them through. An alien appeared on the screen. The Praxian commander looked like a seal crossed with a dolphin, its skin gray and smooth. It spoke in its own language, translated instantly by the ship's computer. Human vessel Indomitable. You are assigned to Sector 7. Rearguard position. Protect the supply convoy routes. Maintain your position and do not engage enemy forces without direct authorization. Taesung kept his face neutral. Rearguard duty. The safest, least important assignment possible. The transmission ended. The bridge crew looked at their captain. Helm, Tae-sung said quietly. Take us to Sector 7. Let us see what we are dealing with. The Indomitable moved forward, one small ship entering a war zone filled with giants. Behind them, on the Coalition command ship, alien officers marked the human vessel on their tactical displays and then forgot about it. After all, what could one primitive ship possibly do? They would find out soon enough. The Indomitable hung in the darkness of Sector 7, watching. 3 days had passed since their arrival at Belthera, and the human crew had done exactly what they were told. They protected supply convoys that never came under attack. They maintained their position at the edge of the battle zone. They stayed out of the way. Captain Tae-sung hated every minute of it. From their position, they could see the main battle lines on their sensors. Massive coalition fleets faced off against Vorath attack groups. Energy weapons lit up the black, like lightning storms. Ships exploded in silence. Every few hours, the tactical display showed another coalition vessel going dark. The death toll was climbing into the thousands, and the Indomitable sat in the back, useless. Engineer Da-eun had spent the 3 days running maintenance checks and modifications. Her team worked around the clock in the engine rooms and weapons bays. She was a small woman with permanent grease stains on her hands and an obsessive need to improve everything she touched. Tae-sung found her in the main weapons bay on the afternoon of the 3rd day. How are the railguns? He asked. Da-eun looked up from a control panel. Ready. I increased the firing rate by 8%. The barrels will wear out faster, but we can replace them. I also modified the power distribution. If we need to, we can route emergency power from life support directly to weapons. It would give us maybe 2 minutes of increased firepower before we all pass out from lack of oxygen. Let us hope it does not come to that. She smiled grimly. Let us hope we get to fire these guns at all, Captain. 3 days of sitting here is driving my team crazy. Tae-sung understood. The entire crew felt the same frustration. They had come across 300 light-years to watch a war from the sidelines. On the bridge, Communications Officer Bo-ra continued monitoring alien transmissions. She had gotten better at breaking their encryption. Most of what she heard was tactical chatter, position reports, damage assessments. But sometimes, she caught personal communications between ships. The aliens talked about the humans. Did you see that primitive vessel? One Krishari officer had said. It looks like they built it from scrap metal. I heard their weapons are still kinetic, another replied. Can you imagine? Throwing metal at targets like cave dwellers throwing rocks. Why did the council even invite them? They contribute nothing. Bo-ra reported these conversations to Commander Jae-hoon, who made a point not to share them with the full crew. Morale was fragile enough already. But word spread anyway. It always did on a small ship. The crew knew they were being mocked. Lieutenant Yoonji took it personally. She spent hours running combat simulations, trying to find scenarios where the Indomitable's weapons could make a difference. She worked with Dr. Hyun-woo, analyzing every piece of data they could gather about Vorath tactics. There is something strange, Hyun-woo said on the 4th day. He had called Eun-ji and Commander Jae-hoon to his small science lab. Data scrolled across multiple screens. I have been studying the Vorath attack patterns. Every engagement for the past 3 months. The coalition keeps losing, but they cannot figure out why. End of 4. Jae-hoon leaned forward. What did you find? A pattern. Look here. Hyun-woo pulled up a tactical map, showing Vorath ship movements. Each attack follows a mathematical progression. They optimize resource allocation with perfect efficiency. They strike at the weakest points in coalition formations with exact timing. It is too perfect to be organic decision-making. Artificial intelligence, Eun-ji said. Yes. The Vorath must be using AI to control their fleet tactics. And the coalition species have been fighting each other for so long. Using traditional strategies, They do not recognize what they are facing. Jae-hoon studied the data. If the Vorath use AI for tactics, there will be weaknesses. AI optimizes based on known variables. It cannot handle true randomness. Exactly. Hyunwoo looked excited now, his usual worry replaced by scientific enthusiasm. Human tactics are random by Vorath standards. We do not have established patterns. We are too new. An AI, trained on thousands of years of galactic warfare, would not know how to predict us. Yoonji felt her heart race. We need to tell Coalition Command. They brought their findings to Captain Tae-sung. He listened carefully, asked several questions, then nodded. Good work. Prepare a full report. I will transmit it to Coalition Command immediately. The response came back 30 minutes later. A text message, not even a voice communication. Report received. Analysis deemed speculative. Maintain current position. Do not break formation protocol. Tae-sung read the message 3 times. Then he deleted it and sat in his command chair, thinking. Commander Jae-hoon approached him quietly. They did not even read it, did they? They read it. They just do not care. Tae-sung looked at his second officer. They believe we are primitives. Making guesses. Why would they trust our analysis over their own experts, who have studied warfare for millennia? So what do we do? That was the question. Tae-sung thought about his orders. Stay in position. Do not engage without authorization. Follow protocol. Tae-sung. But he also thought about Admiral Ji-won's last words to him before he left Earth. Show them what humans can do. Hyunwoo, he said. You believe you can predict where the Vorath will strike next? The science officer appeared on the bridge screen from his lab. Based on the mathematical progression, yes. They should hit Sector 4, Quadrant 7, within the next 18 hours. There is a coalition supply depot there with minimal defense. How confident are you? Hyunwoo hesitated. 70%. Maybe 80. Tae-sung stood up. Helm. Calculate a course to Sector 4, Quadrant 7. Best speed. The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what he was doing. They were breaking formation. They were abandoning their assigned position. They were acting without authorization. Bora spoke up carefully. Captain, Coalition Command will be very angry. I know. We could be court-martialed when we return to Earth. I know that too. Tae-sung looked at his crew. Young faces watching him, waiting for him to lead them. But if we are right, we can save that supply depot. If we are wrong, we will face consequences. I am willing to accept that. Anyone who is not can submit a formal objection to this order, and it will be noted in the log. No one spoke. Very well. Helm. Execute. Course. Maximum speed. The Indomitable turned and accelerated, leaving her assigned sector behind. Within minutes, Coalition sensors detected the movement. Angry transmissions came in. The Praxian fleet commander himself called. Human vessel, you are breaking formation. Return to your position immediately. Negative, Command, Tae-sung replied calmly. We have intelligence indicating an imminent attack on Sector 4. We are moving to intercept. You have no authorization for this action. Your intelligence is not verified. Return to position or face consequences. Noted. Indomitable, out. Tae-sung. Cut the transmission. Bora looked nervous. Captain, they are really angry. Multiple ships are demanding we turn back. Ignore them. Focus on sensors. I want to know the moment any Vorath ships appear. The Indomitable raced through space. Hours passed. The crew worked in tense silence. If they were wrong, if no attack came, they would be humiliated. The galaxy's mockery would be justified. The primitive humans who thought they knew better than civilizations thousands of years old. Lieutenant Eunji checked her weapons for the 100th time. Engineer Da-eun made final adjustments to the power systems. Dr. Hyun-woo rechecked his calculations obsessively. 16 hours after they left Sector 7, the Indomitable arrived at the supply depot in Sector 4. It was a small orbital station with 6 coalition cargo ships docked. Only 3 light escort vessels provided protection. The defenders saw the human ship approach and sent confused queries. What were they doing here? Tae-sung did not answer. He positioned the Indomitable between the depot and the most likely attack vector. All hands to battle stations, he ordered. Charge weapons. Prepare for combat. Alarms rang through the ship. Crew members ran to their posts. In the weapons bays, Da-eun's teams armed the railguns and loaded the modified missiles Eun-ji had designed. On the bridge, every console showed green status lights. They waited. 1 hour passed. Then, 2. The coalition escort ships sent increasingly worried messages. What did the humans know? Should they evacuate the depot? Bo-ra suddenly stiffened at her console. Captain, I have multiple contacts emerging from faster-than-light travel. Bearing 2, 7, 5, Mark 18. Distance, 12 million kilometers. The tactical display lit up. 47 Voreth ships appeared on the screen, spreading into attack formation. They were heading directly for the supply depot. Dr. Hyun-woo had been right. The coalition escorts panicked. 3 small ships against 47 Voreth destroyers. They would be slaughtered. Emergency transmissions went out to coalition command. Help needed immediately. And about S. and Damaser, but help was 30 minutes away at best. The Vorath fleet adjusted course slightly, clearly noticing the Indomitable. For a few moments, nothing happened. Tae-sung imagined the Vorath AI analyzing the new variable. 1 unknown ship. Primitive technology. Minimal threat assessment. The Vorath formation did not change. They continued their approach. Commander Jae-hoon smiled coldly. They do not think we matter, Captain. No, Tae-sung agreed. They do not. He opened a channel to the entire ship. 200 crew members listened to their captain's voice. Crew of the Indomitable. This is not the assignment we were given. This is not the safe, easy duty at the back of the fleet. In approximately 8 minutes, we will engage 47 enemy warships. The odds are very bad. No one would blame us for retreating. But I believe we can win this fight. With thine, in this fight. Not by matching their strength, but by doing what they do not expect. Trust your training. Trust each other. And remember that we are here to show the galaxy what humans can do. This is our moment. Let us make it count. He closed the channel, looked at his bridge crew, saw determination on every face. Helm, he said quietly. Full speed ahead. Take us right at them. The Indomitable accelerated toward 47 Vorath warships, 1 human vessel against an enemy fleet. The galaxy had mocked them, called them primitives, laughed at their single ship. The laughter was about to stop. The Vorath fleet spread across space like a dark tide. 47 warships, each one larger than the Indomitable, each one built by an empire that had conquered dozens of worlds. Their hulls were dark red, covered in angular armor plating. Their weapons bristled from every surface. They moved in perfect formation, precise and mathematical. Captain Tae-sung watched them approach on the tactical display. 6 minutes until weapons range. His heart was steady. His hands did not shake. He had spent 20 years preparing for moments like this, first in Earth's navies, and now among the stars. Hyun-woo, he said, tell me about their AI. The science officer's voice came through the bridge speakers from his lab. The Vorath AI controls fleet tactics and probably individual ship systems. It will optimize everything for maximum efficiency. It will analyze our ship and calculate we are not a significant threat. It will assign minimal resources to destroying us while the main fleet continues to the supply depot. How many ships will it send against us? Based on the pattern, probably 6, maybe 8. Commander Jae-hoon leaned forward in his chair. Only 6 ships to kill us. That is insulting. That is an advantage, Taesung replied. He opened a channel to Engineer Da-un. Are the modifications ready? Rai. 1. Yes, Captain. The missiles are loaded. Each one is carrying the EM pulse package. The railguns have full ammunition. Power systems are running at 110%, which is technically unsafe but should hold. Good. Stand by. Lieutenant Yoonji was almost vibrating with nervous energy at the weapons console. She had spent months designing these modifications. Now she would see if they worked. Captain, request permission to fire. As soon as we reach range. Do not wait for them to shoot first. Denied. We need them to commit. We need them to think they understand what we are. Taesung kept his eyes on the display. Patience. The distance decreased. 5 minutes. 4. The Vorath fleet was close enough now that the visual sensors could show actual images. The enemy ships looked predatory, built for violence. Bo-Ra monitored coalition communications. Captain, the escort ships are retreating. They say they will regroup and wait for reinforcements. They think we are insane. Let them think it. 3 minutes. The Vorath fleet began to separate. 6 destroyers broke formation and accelerated toward the Indomitable. Exactly as Hyun-woo predicted. The rest of the fleet continued toward the supply depot. Jae-hoon nodded approvingly. The AI is efficient. It sends minimum force against us and keeps the main group focused on the primary objective, which means those 6 ships think they can handle us easily, Yoonji said. Yes. Which means they are not ready for what we are about to do. 2 minutes. The 6 Vorath destroyers spread into an attack formation. The formation was textbook perfect. The kind taught in military academies across the galaxy for thousands of years. Each ship covered the others. Overlapping fields of fire. No wasted movement. Taesung had studied this formation. He had seen it in the records from dozens of coalition battles. It was effective against conventional tactics. The Indomitable was not going to use conventional tactics. Helm, I am sending you a flight path. It is going to be uncomfortable. The pilot, a young officer named Sung Ho, looked at the data and went pale. Captain, this course involves 7 consecutive high G turns. The crew will be thrown around. Quote, I know. Execute it anyway. All hands. Secure for violent maneuvers. Throughout the ship, crew members strapped themselves into their seats. In the weapons bays, Da-un's teams locked down equipment and braced themselves. 1 minute. The Vorath ships opened fire first. Energy beams lanced out, bright and deadly. They should have hit the Indomitable, dead center. But Sung Ho threw the ship into the first turn, a violent banking maneuver that no galactic pilot would attempt at this speed. The Indomitable was not a graceful ship, but she was human-built, over-engineered for stress. The energy beams passed through empty space. Fire, Taesung ordered. Yoonji's fingers flew across her console. The railguns opened up, hurling solid metal slugs at a significant fraction of light speed. At the same time, 6 missiles launched, spreading out on different trajectories. The Vorath ships adjusted instantly. Their shields came up. Energy barriers designed to deflect or absorb incoming fire. Against energy weapons, the shields were nearly perfect. Against plasma, they were excellent. Against solid metal traveling at 50,000 kilometers per second, they were less effective. 2 railgun slugs punched through the shields of the lead Vorath destroyer. The kinetic impact was devastating. Metal tore through metal. The destroyer's hull ruptured. Atmosphere and debris exploded out into space. The other Vorath ships reacted, but their AI was confused. Kinetic weapons? Nobody used kinetic weapons anymore. The galaxy had abandoned them 3,000 years ago as primitive and inefficient. The AI had to recalculate threat assessment. That hesitation cost them. The missiles reached their targets. They did not explode with conventional warheads. Instead, each missile detonated its EM pulse package. Massive electromagnetic interference burst out in all directions. It was an old Earth military concept, updated with modern technology. The Voreth ships were AI-controlled. Every system was networked. Every function was optimized through computer systems. The EM pulse crashed through their networks like a hammer through glass. 3 Vorath destroyers went dark. Their systems rebooted desperately, trying to recover. Their shields dropped. Their weapons stopped firing. They drifted, momentarily helpless. "Now!" Taesung shouted. Sung Ho threw the Indomitable into another violent turn, bringing them onto a new attack vector. The railguns fired again and again. Without shields, the Vorath ships were vulnerable. Solid slugs tore into their hulls. Secondary explosions bloomed across their surfaces. One destroyer tried to restore its shields. Eun-ji targeted it with the dorsal railgun. 3 shots in quick succession. The first broke through the partial shield. The second penetrated the hull. The third hit something critical. The ship exploded in a ball of plasma. The remaining Vorath destroyers were recovering now. Their systems came back online. Their AI recalculated and adapted. They spread out, trying to surround the human ship. But Taesung was not finished. Engineer Da-eun. Reroute power from life support to weapons. 2 minutes. Confirmed, Captain. You have 2 minutes before we start losing oxygen. The railguns fired faster now, powered by the emergency energy. Eun-ji was brilliant at her console, targeting weak points, aiming for joints in armor plating, for engine sections, for weapon emplacements. Another Vorath destroyer died, ripped apart by sustained fire. Jae-hoon was coordinating defensive maneuvers, calling out warnings as enemy fire came close. Incoming plasma, port side. Turn starboard now. 2012. 2012. 2020-2012. 2020-2020-2012. 2020-2020-2020. 2020-2020-2020. Sung Ho complied, throwing the ship into another brutal turn. The plasma shot missed by meters. The crew was being thrown around despite their restraints. Taesung heard someone cursing over the intercom, but they were alive. 4 Vorath destroyers remained from the original 6. They were adapting now, spreading their formation wider, attacking from multiple angles. The AI was learning, but it was learning too slowly. A new element appeared on the tactical display. Ensign Wu Jin, launched from the Indomitable's small hangar in humanity's prototype fighter craft. The fighter was tiny, barely larger than an ancient Earth aircraft, but it was fast and maneuverable in ways that violated galactic engineering norms. Wu Jin flew directly at the nearest Vorath destroyer. The enemy ship tried to target him, but the fighter was too small and too fast. Human pilots could endure higher G-forces than most galactic species. Earth's gravity was heavier than average. Humans had evolved to handle pressure. Wu Jin pulled maneuvers that would kill a Krishari pilot. He got inside the Vorath ship's minimum weapons range and released his payload. 2 small missiles struck the destroyer's engine section. The ship lost propulsion and began to tumble. 3 destroyers left. The Indomitable was taking damage now. The Vorath ships were concentrating their fire. Energy beams scored black marks across the human ship's hull. An explosion rocked the port side. Damage reports came in. Hull breach on deck 4, Bo-ra reported. Sealing emergency doors. Casualties unknown. Taesung felt the ship shudder under another hit. They could not take much more. Eun-ji. Status on weapons? Railguns at 70% capacity. We are running low on ammunition. Missiles depleted. Then we finish this now. Helm. Ramming course to the lead destroyer. Sung Ho's eyes went wide. Captain? You heard me. Full speed. Ramming course. The Indomitable turned directly toward the largest remaining Vorath ship. The human vessel accelerated, building speed. The Vorath AI had no category for this tactic. Ramming was illogical, a waste of resources. No calculated species would sacrifice a ship this way. But humans were not entirely logical. And Tae-sung had no intention of actually ramming. The Vorath destroyer tried to turn away, but the Indomitable was faster in a straight line. The distance closed rapidly. At the last second, Sung-ho pulled up, passing directly over the Vorath ship at close range. As they passed, every remaining railgun on the Indomitable's underside fired downward at point-blank range. Solid metal slugs tore into the Vorath destroyer's upper hull. The armor could not withstand that much kinetic force at such close proximity. The destroyer broke in half. 2 ships left. And they were retreating. The Vorath AI had finally calculated correctly. This single human ship was more dangerous than predicted. It was worth more resources to destroy. The 2 remaining destroyers were pulling back, calling for reinforcements from the main fleet. But Tae-sung was not going to let them warn the others. Pursuit course. Maximum speed. Woojin, take the one on the left. The Indomitable and the tiny fighter chased the fleeing Vorath ships. The railguns fired their last ammunition. Woojin's fighter danced through enemy fire and delivered his remaining missiles. Both Vorath destroyers died within seconds of each other. Silence fell on the bridge. Tae-sung looked at the tactical display. 6 destroyed Vorath ships. Debris fields spreading across space. The supply depot was safe, and the main Vorath fleet was turning around. 41 warships changed course, heading back toward the Indomitable. The AI had recognized the threat. Now, the full fleet was coming. Bo-ra looked terrified. "Captain, they are all coming for us." "Yes." Tae-sung allowed himself a small smile. "Which means they are not attacking the supply depot anymore." Jae-hoon, time until coalition reinforcements arrive. 22 minutes, Captain. Can we survive 22 minutes against 41 ships? Jae-hoon considered. Probably not. Probably is better than definitely not. Helm. Evasive pattern gamma. Keep us moving. Yoon-ji. Do we have any weapons left? Some point defense guns. No railgun ammunition. No missiles. Then we just have to be hard to hit. For 22 minutes, the Indomitable ran. The ship dodged and weaved through space, using every trick Sung-ho knew. The Vorath fleet pursued, firing constantly. Energy beams crisscrossed the darkness. Several struck the human ship, burning through armor, destroying compartments. More casualties. More damage. But they stayed alive. And then the coalition fleet arrived. 200 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The Praxian fleet commander's face appeared on every screen in the Indomitable's bridge. His voice was different now. No condescension, no dismissal. Human vessel. Indomitable. Well done. All coalition ships. Engage the enemy. Follow the human's lead. Captain Tae-sung sat in his damaged command chair on his damaged ship and watched as the galaxy finally took humanity seriously. The coalition fleet arrived like a hammer falling from the sky. 200 warships from a dozen different species, each one massive and powerful, each one built by civilizations that had mastered space warfare millennia before humans discovered fire. They came in battle formation, weapons charged, shields at maximum. The Vorath fleet scattered. Captain Tae-sung watched it happen on the tactical display. 41 enemy ships that had been hunting the Indomitable suddenly broke formation and retreated. The Vorath AI recognized overwhelming force when it calculated the odds. The enemy fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed and vanished. The battle was over. All stations, stand down from combat alert, Tae-sung ordered. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. Damage control teams, begin repairs. Medical teams to all injured personnel. The bridge crew slumped in their chairs. Lieutenant Yoon-ji was crying silently, relief and exhaustion mixing together. Ensign Woojin's fighter limped back into the hangar bay, nearly out of fuel. Dr. Hyun-woo sat in his lab surrounded by data he had collected during the battle. too overwhelmed to process any of it. Commander Jae-hoon pulled up the damage reports. 14 dead, Captain. 37 injured. Hull breaches on 3 decks. Main power is at 40%. The port weapons array is destroyed. We used all our railgun ammunition and all our missiles. He paused. But we are alive. Yes. Taesung closed his eyes briefly. 14 dead. 14 crew members who left Earth expecting to see new worlds and instead found death in the darkness. He would write letters to their families. He would attend memorial services. But right now, he had to command his ship, begin casualty notifications, and prepare a full battle report. An incoming transmission lit up Bo-Ra's console. Captain, Coalition Command is hailing us. It is the fleet commander himself. Right, Raz. The Praxian appeared on screen. His gray, seal-like face was harder to read than a human's. But Taesung thought he detected something like respect in those large eyes. Captain Taesung of Earth, the alien said. The translator gave his voice a smooth, formal quality. You disobeyed direct orders. You abandoned your assigned position. You engaged an enemy fleet without authorization. He paused. And you saved 300 coalition personnel and prevented the loss of a critical supply depot. You also destroyed 6 Vorath warships with a single vessel. Taesung kept his expression neutral. How did you know where they would attack? We analyzed their pattern of movement. Dr. Hyun-woo, my science officer, determined they were using artificial intelligence to control fleet tactics. The AI follows mathematical optimization. Once we understood the pattern, we could predict their next move. The Praxian was silent for a long moment. We have been fighting the Vorath for 3 years. Our best tactical analysts have studied their movements. No one identified this pattern. With respect, Commander, your analysts have thousands of years of military tradition. They look for traditional tactics. Humans are new to space warfare. We see things differently. Another pause. Then the Praxian's face shifted in what might have been a smile. Come to the command ship, Captain. Bring your analysis. The Council of War needs to hear this. The transmission ended. Commander Jae-hoon looked at Taesung. That was not a request. No, it was an opportunity. Taesung stood, feeling every bruise from being thrown around the bridge during combat. Jae-hoon, you have command. Keep the crew working on repairs. I will take Hyun-woo to the command ship. 2 hours later, Taesung and Dr. Hyun-woo stood in the war room of the Eternal Radiance, the Coalition's command vessel. The room was enormous. Built for giants. Holographic displays showed the entire Belthara system. Dozens of alien officers watched them, with various expressions ranging from curiosity to hostility. The Praxian fleet commander, whose name translated as Rethus, gestured to the displays. Show us. Hyun-woo was nervous. He was a scientist, not a military officer. He was more comfortable with data than with being the center of attention. But he stepped forward and began uploading his analysis to the command ship's systems. The Vorath fleet movements follow a mathematical progression, he began. His voice was shaky at first, but grew stronger as he entered his element. Every attack maximizes resource efficiency. They strike at the weakest defended targets that offer the highest strategic value. They minimize their own losses while inflicting maximum damage. This is consistent across every engagement. A Krishari officer clicked his mandibles skeptically. The insectoid alien's translator rendered it as disdainful speech. Of course they fight efficiently. All competent militaries do. No, Hyun-woo said, finding his courage. You fight according to doctrine and experience. You make decisions based on training and intuition. The Vorath do not. They optimize. Every single time. No variation, no adaptation to circumstances. Pure mathematical calculation. He pulled up dozens of battle records, showing patterns that became clear once you knew what to look for. Attack vectors that always chose the most efficient path. Formations that never varied except in response to specific stimuli. Resource allocation that was too perfect to be organic decision-making. This is artificial intelligence, Hyun-woo concluded. And AI has a weakness. It can only respond to variables it has been trained to recognize. Something truly unpredictable, something outside its training data, will cause it to make mistakes. A Veltham officer, its silicon-based body glowing softly, spoke. If this is true, why did we not see it before? Commander Rethus answered before Hyun-woo could. Because we have been fighting each other for 10,000 years. We understand each other's tactics. We expect certain patterns. The Vorath AI was trained on that same history. It knows how we fight because we fight the way we have always fought. But humans are new, Taesung added. The Vorath AI has no data on human tactics. When we used kinetic weapons and EM pulses and aggressive maneuver warfare, it could not predict or properly respond. We were outside its parameters. The war room fell silent. Alien officers looked at each other. Some appeared thoughtful. Others looked angry, as if offended that primitives had seen what they missed. A senior Krishari general spoke. If what you say is correct, we need to adapt our own tactics. Introduce randomness. Use abandoned technologies. Be unpredictable. Yes, Taesung agreed. And we need to share information. Humans have different approaches to warfare because we have no galactic tradition to follow, but other species might have abandoned tactics that could be effective again. Old strategies the Vorath AI would not expect. Commander Rethus looked at Taesung for a long moment. You are suggesting we learn from each other. I am suggesting we use every advantage we have. The Vorath are winning because they are efficient. We can win by being creative. The meeting continued for hours. Alien officers who had dismissed humanity days ago now listened carefully to Hyun-woo's analysis. They asked questions. They shared their own data. Slowly, a new strategy emerged. When Taesung finally returned to the Indomitable, he found his crew hard at work on repairs. Engineer Da-un had teams cutting away damaged sections and welding new plates. The dead had been moved to the medical bay, prepared for eventual burial in space according to their wishes. The wounded were being treated. Lieutenant Yoonji met him at the airlock. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady. Captain, I have been analyzing our weapons performance. The railguns exceeded expectations. The EM missiles worked perfectly. But we need to reload. Coalition Command is sending us ammunition and supplies. They are helping us? Yes, sir. Apparently, several other ships want to install railguns now. The Veltham Collective is asking about our EM pulse technology. She smiled slightly. We are not a joke anymore. Over the next few weeks, the Indomitable remained at Belthara. The ship was repaired, upgraded, and rearmed. But more importantly, the human crew became teachers. Lieutenant Yoonji spent hours explaining human weapon systems to alien engineers. The galaxy had abandoned kinetic weapons as primitive, but now they saw the advantage. Kinetic rounds were cheap, simple, and effective against energy-optimized shields. Engineer Da-un taught coalition repair teams about rapid iteration maintenance. Alien ships were built to last centuries. They were beautifully engineered but difficult to modify. Human ships were designed to be rebuilt and improved constantly. This adaptability was a strength. Dr. Hyun-woo worked with alien scientists to understand the Vorath AI better. They developed countermeasures, tactics designed specifically to exploit artificial intelligence weaknesses. Commander Jae-hoon trained coalition tactical officers in aggressive maneuver warfare. Most galactic species fought in formations, using established patterns. Human tactics emphasized chaos, speed, and unpredictability. The Vorath attacked twice more during those weeks. Both times, coalition forces used their new understanding. They mixed old and new tactics. They introduced randomness into their formations. They used kinetic weapons alongside energy beams. Both times, The Vorath retreated with heavy losses. Captain Tae-sung watched it all from the bridge of his battered ship. The Indomitable was no longer relegated to the rear. She flew with the main fleet now, her crew respected by species who had traveled the stars for millennia. One evening, Commander Rethus visited the human ship personally. The massive Praxian had to duck to fit through the corridors built for human-sized crew members. "Captain Tae-sung," he said when they met in Tae-sung's small office. "I came to apologize." Tae-sung raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For dismissing your people. For thinking one human ship could contribute nothing. For laughing at your technology." Rethus settled his bulk into a chair that barely supported his weight. "We were fools. We looked at your weapons and saw primitive tools. We should have looked at your minds and seen fresh perspectives. You were not fools," Tae-sung said. "You were experienced. Experience is valuable. But sometimes, experience becomes tradition, and tradition becomes inflexibility." "Yes." Rethus was quiet for a moment. "The Council is requesting that Earth build more ships. Not ships like ours. Ships like yours. They want human tactics integrated into coalition forces." Tae-sung felt a surge of pride. "Earth will be honored. There is something else. The Council wants to assign human tactical advisors to every major fleet. We need your unpredictability, your creativity, your willingness to try things we abandoned long ago." Rethus looked directly at the human captain. "You came to us with one ship. You leave as the species that reminded the galaxy how to adapt." After Rethus left, Tae-sung sat alone in his office. He thought about the crew members who died. He thought about the mockery they endured. He thought about the moment the Indomitable crossed into battle against impossible odds. They had been underestimated, dismissed, laughed at, but they had proven themselves. Not by matching the galaxy's strength, but by showing the galaxy something it had forgotten. Innovation mattered more than tradition. Adaptation mattered more than experience. Courage mattered more than numbers. And one ship, crewed by humans who refused to accept limitations, had changed everything. 2 months after the Battle of Belthara, the Indomitable returned to Earth. The journey home took 3 weeks, and Captain Tae-sung spent much of that time writing reports and recommendations. The ship was scarred from 6 more battles fought alongside coalition forces. Her hull bore the marks of energy weapons and plasma fire, but she flew proudly, carrying a crew that had changed the course of galactic warfare. Admiral G1 met them at the orbital station above Earth. She was the first person to board when the Indomitable docked. Tae-sung saluted her on the hangar deck, surrounded by his exhausted crew. "Permission to come aboard, Captain," she said formally. "Permission granted, Admiral." G1 looked at the battle damage, at the patched hull plates, at the crew members standing at attention despite their weariness. Then she smiled. It was a rare expression on her usually stern face. "You did well. All of you. Earth is proud." She walked down the line of officers, stopping to speak with each one. She thanked Dr. Hyun-woo for his analysis. She commended Engineer Da-eun for keeping the ship running through impossible conditions. She told Lieutenant Yoon-ji that her weapons modifications were now being studied by every military academy on Earth. When she reached Commander Jae-hoon, she said simply, "Your tactics are being taught to our new captains." Finally, she returned to Tae-sung. "Walk with me, Captain." They left the hangar and moved through the orbital station's observation deck. Through the windows, Earth turned slowly below them. Blue oceans, green and brown continents, white clouds. Home. "The Galactic Council has sent formal communications," G1 said. "They want Earth to build a fleet, not a small fleet. They are requesting 100 ships within 2 years. Tae-sung whistled softly. "That is ambitious. It is necessary. The Vorath campaign has stalled, but it has not stopped. The coalition needs every advantage." She looked at him seriously. "They also want human tactical advisors assigned to every major fleet. They want our officers teaching in their military academies. They want our engineers upgrading their ships. We went from being mocked to being needed. Yes, in 2 months, you changed how the galaxy sees humanity. G1 turned away from the window. But that is not why I wanted to speak with you privately. I need to know something. When you disobeyed orders and moved to Sector 4, you risked everything. Your career, your crew, your life. What made you do it? 8. Tae-sung considered the question carefully. I believed we were right. I believed we could make a difference. And I believed that if we did not act, people would die needlessly. He paused. But mostly, I was tired of being dismissed. I wanted to prove that humanity deserved respect. And you did. At great cost. Ji-won's expression softened slightly. 14 dead. We will honor them. Their names will be remembered. Yes, Admiral. The new fleet will need commanders. Experienced officers who understand both human and galactic warfare. I am offering you a choice, Captain. You can command one of the new ships, or you can stay with the Indomitable. She needs extensive repairs, but she will fly again. Tae-sung did not hesitate. I stay with my ship. The Indomitable earned her reputation. I will not abandon her. Ji-won nodded, as if she expected that answer. Then you will command her for as long as you wish. But know that younger officers will look to you as an example. You set the standard for human conduct in space. That is a heavy burden. Back on the Indomitable, the crew prepared for shore leave. They would have 2 months on Earth, while the ship underwent repairs. 2 months to see families, to heal from injuries both physical and mental, to rest. Lieutenant Yoon-ji was already planning her return. She had been offered a position at the new weapons research facility being built in orbit. She would design the guns for the next generation of human warships. Dr. Hyun-woo received invitations from 3 different universities. They wanted him to teach, to share his methods for analyzing alien technology and tactics. Engineer Da-eun was promoted. She would oversee the construction of Earth's new fleet, ensuring every ship incorporated the hard lessons learned from the Indomitable's battles. Commander Jae-hoon was offered his own ship. He accepted. He would command the second vessel in Earth's growing navy, training a new crew in the tactics that had proven so effective. But before they all went their separate ways, Tae-sung called the crew together one final time. They gathered in the main assembly hall, the same space where he had spoken to them before their first battle. Now, the hall bore scorch marks from a hull breach during their 4th engagement. Everything about the ship showed signs of war. I will not keep you long, Tae-sung said. You have earned your rest. But I wanted to say something before we separate. He looked at the faces, watching him, young faces that seemed older now. When we left Earth, the galaxy saw us as a curiosity, a primitive species with one crude ship. They laughed at us. They thought we could contribute nothing. He paused, letting his words sink in. We proved them wrong, not by matching their strength, but by showing them something they had forgotten. We showed them that innovation matters, that fresh perspectives matter, that courage and creativity can overcome technological disadvantages. He walked slowly along the front of the assembled crew. But we also learned from them. We learned that experience is valuable, that tradition exists for reasons, that thousands of years of accumulated knowledge should be respected even as we challenge it. The galaxy is changing because of what we did. Human tactical doctrine is being taught on 100 worlds. Our weapons are being installed on coalition ships. Our methods are being studied and adapted. But more important than any of that, we changed how the galaxy sees humanity. We are no longer outsiders begging for acceptance. We are partners who bring something unique and valuable. Tae-sung stopped and faced the crew directly. Some of you will leave the Indomitable for new assignments. You will teach, you will build, you will command. Some of you will stay and help repair her for the battles ahead. But wherever you go, remember this. You were the first. You were the crew that crossed into battle when everyone said it was suicide. You were the ones who showed the galaxy what humans can do. he straightened to attention. "Crew of the Indomitable, you have my respect. You have Earth's gratitude. And you have the galaxy's recognition." Dismissed. The crew saluted. Then, as one, they broke into applause. It started quietly, but built to a roar that echoed through the damaged corridors of the ship that had changed everything. 3 months later, 6 new warships emerged from Earth's orbital shipyards. They were larger than the Indomitable, better armed, more advanced, but they were built on the same principles: human ingenuity, adaptability, a willingness to try things the galaxy had forgotten. Admiral G1 stood in the command center and watched them take formation. Each ship carried a crew trained by veterans from the Indomitable. Each captain had studied the battles at Belthara. Each officer understood the lesson that Tae Sung had taught the galaxy. Age and size mattered less than innovation and courage. The new fleet commander was a young officer named Seung Ri. He had been a junior lieutenant on a coalition ship during the Battle of Belthara. He had watched the Indomitable face impossible odds. He had seen one human ship change the course of a battle. Now he commanded 6 ships, and he understood the responsibility. "Admiral," he said over the communication channel, "fleet is ready for deployment. Requesting permission to depart." "Permission granted, Commander. Your orders are to join Coalition Fleet 7 in the Kelvar system. You will serve as tactical advisors and rapid response force." G1 paused. "Remember what the Indomitable taught us. We do not fight to prove we are stronger. We fight to prove we are smarter." "Understood, Admiral. We will make you proud." The 6 ships accelerated away from Earth, their engines bright against the darkness. They would join coalition forces across the galaxy. They would teach and learn. They would fight alongside species that had mastered space warfare thousands of years before humans left their caves. And everywhere they went, other species would remember the story. The story of how humanity arrived with one battered ship. The story of how the galaxy mocked them. The story of how that one ship crossed into battle against impossible odds and changed everything. On the Indomitable, repairs continued. Captain Tae Sung walked through the corridors, inspecting the work. New armor plates covered the old scars. New weapons were being installed. The ship was being rebuilt, stronger and better than before. But some things would not change. The memorial wall in the main corridor now bore 14 names. The crew members who died in battle. Tae Sung stopped there every day. He remembered their faces. He remembered their courage. Engineer Da-un found him there one afternoon. She had returned from the construction facility to oversee the final repairs personally. "The new ships are good," she said, "but they are not the Indomitable." "No," Tae Sung agreed. "This ship has a history now. She earned her place. When will she be ready?" 2 more weeks. Then we rejoin the fleet." Da-un nodded. "Good. The Coalition is requesting us specifically for their next offensive. They want the ship that started it all." Tae Sung smiled slightly. "They do not want to send us to the rear anymore." Tae Sung. Tae Sung. Tae Sung. Tae Sung. "No. They want us at the front, leading the way." She looked at the memorial wall. "We lost people earning that respect. We did. And we will lose more. But their sacrifice changed the galaxy. That matters. Across human space, in training facilities and research centers and shipyards, the work continued. New crews trained in the tactics that the Indomitable had pioneered. New weapons were designed based on the innovations that proved so effective. New ships were built to human specifications, incorporating the lessons learned from 2 months of desperate combat. The Galactic Council released formal studies analyzing the Battle of Belthara. Military academies on 100 worlds now taught case studies about how one primitive ship had defeated 6 advanced warships. The phrase, "crossing into battle," entered common usage across coalition forces. It meant taking decisive action despite impossible odds. The Vorath Empire, for their part, adapted their AI systems. They tried to account for unpredictability. They studied human tactics and developed countermeasures. The war was far from over, but the balance had shifted. The coalition was no longer just defending. They were advancing. They were learning. They were adapting. And at the center of that transformation was humanity. The new species that arrived with nothing and taught the galaxy how to fight again. On Earth, Admiral G1 recorded her final log entry for the historical record. She stood in her office overlooking the shipyards, where dozens of new vessels were under construction. "They mocked our one ship," she said to the camera. "They saw primitive technology and assumed primitive minds. They forgot that evolution does not stop with age. That innovation requires fresh perspectives. That sometimes the newest voice in the room has the most important things to say." She paused, choosing her words carefully. The Indomitable and her crew reminded the galaxy of these truths. They proved that humanity deserves a place among the stars. Not as followers begging for scraps of knowledge, not as students grateful for any attention, but as equals who bring unique value to the galactic community. The war continues. We will lose more ships. More crew members will die in the darkness. But we fight now, not to prove ourselves, but to defend what we have earned. Respect. Partnership. A seat at the table where the fate of the galaxy is decided. She looked directly at the camera. Let the galaxy remember. Let history record. Humanity arrived with one ship, and that one ship changed everything. High above Earth, the Indomitable completed her repairs. Her hull gleamed with new armor. Her weapons were loaded and ready. Her crew returned from shore leave, eager to rejoin the fight. Captain Taesung sat in his command chair and looked at his bridge officers. Lieutenant Yunji at weapons, Dr. Hyunwoo at science. Communications Officer Bo-ra at her station. A few new faces replacing those who transferred to other assignments. "All stations report ready, Captain," Commander Jae-hoon's replacement said. The new second officer was learning quickly. "Then let us return to the fight," Taesung said. "Helm. Set course for Kelvar system. Best speed." The Indomitable turned away from Earth and accelerated toward the stars. Behind her, 6 sister ships followed. Together, they would join coalition forces, fighting across the galaxy. The galaxy had mocked humanity's one ship. That mockery had died the moment the Indomitable crossed into battle. Now the galaxy knew better. Now they understood. Humanity had arrived. And the stars would never be the same.